We're talking about Jonah chapter 1 here and recapping on the three different points we were looking at in the story of Jonah. Not the story, of course, of a great big fish, but of a great big God. First of all, we talked about crossing boundaries, cross storms, and cross God. Cross in three different ways. Crossing boundaries. Boundaries are good. We need defences. We need things to protect us in certain situations. But there are times when actually God calls us to cross beyond what we see and can understand. Perhaps it's a case of chancing our arm in friendship, in reconciliation, extending a hand of forgiveness, in approaching a situation that before we might have found very challenging. Of course, in that, we're to keep our eyes on God, not on the people or situations we face. Jonah, of course, ran away. He very much knew who the Ninevites were, what they were like, and so he was off, mate, and he was off down to Joppa and to jump on a ship. He definitely did have his eyes on God. He had his eyes on the people and situation, and that overwhelmed him. But God calls us sometimes to cross boundaries. The second one is cross storms. Goodness, God sends what R.T. Kendall calls a chastening wind to Jonah. But notice everybody gets caught up in the storm, not just Jonah, but everybody in the ship gets caught up in the storm. Even though it says that God's trying to get Jonah's attention, everybody else gets caught up in what goes on as well. And this is family, this is community. We're here to love and support people through their storms, through their difficulties, so that they do dig into God. Because often what happens is we face a storm, we face a difficulty, and that is the time when we really dig into God and he reveals himself more fully towards us, when perhaps we're a bit more open and vulnerable and wanting his help in our particular situation. So crossing storms. And then finally cross God, not as in an angry God, but as in the Lord who went to the cross for our sake. That God crossed boundaries. He came from heaven to earth, from life to death and back to life again through his resurrection. Here is a God, Lord Jesus Christ, who has crossed boundaries. And also cross storms. Jesus faced the worst that we could brew up against him in the storm of violence and rejection. Where were his friends in his storm? Well, they ran away. But Jesus was still able to go to the cross. Not my will, but yours, he said, of his Father. So we don't have a God who's unsympathetic and unknowing to our situation. He is Jesus incarnate, who came and has crossed boundaries, has faced storms, and now he asks us to follow him with our eyes set firmly on him and not necessarily on the people or situations around us. So cross boundaries, cross storms, but most importantly, cross God.